Good evening from our studios here in New York. I want to welcome all our guests and our viewers from Guyana and around the world. This is Globespan 24x7. Randy, we're getting a feedback. Somebody here? Vishnu? Um, yeah, we want to welcome you to this our program, a special program tonight as we discuss what is going on in our dear land of Guyana. Is our land of many waters, is it now becoming a pariah state? Or is it already a pariah state? Guyana is now officially the laughing stock of the CARICOM, of the Commonwealth, the Organization of American States, the ABCE countries, and every international organization. We are like a seesaw. When we were growing up, we learned the story of the grand old Duke of York. He had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill, and he marched them down again. So when they were up, they were up. When they were down, they were down. When they were halfway up, they were neither up nor down. And that is where we are right now in Guyana. The president of Guyana, what is going on there, everything lies squarely on his feet. He has been dragging this thing on to what extent we don't know. There are repercussions, there are challenges that face Guyanese today. We have the coronavirus that is affecting the world. We need to put all our resource in that area now. And today, 2 weeks after the elections, we are still talking about declaring a final result. All because this government is not willing to accept the will of the people. In 2015, I was elated to welcome this new government into office. Mr. Granger was here in New York with Mr. Nagamutu, and they spoke so glowingly about their plans for Guyana. The last 5 years, they have failed us miserably. The people of Guyana spoke on the 2nd of March, and they made it clear, Mr. Granger, that you are not the president again. Now you don't want yours. Now you become a usurper of that office. We hope that good sense prevail, and Guyana will again be counted among the nations of the world that upholds democracy. This afternoon we have two important sons of Guyana to take us through our program tonight. We have no stranger to us, Dr. Vishnu Doerga. He's the chairman of the Action Invest Caribbean Incorporation. He was the former chairman of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and the Upper Quarantine Chamber of Commerce. He has come from a family of tremendous business experience. And if someone is to know what business operates in Guyana, you need to speak with Vishnu. He has done a tremendous job. He has worked his way up. He has qualified himself. And he will tonight share with us some of the problems we are facing in Guyana. Welcome to the program. For the first time is Mr. Randy Depoo. Randy is a fellow Guyanese, but with amazing credentials. He's very proud to say his wife is Guyanese. His 4 children, one was born in New York, one was born in New Jersey, one was born in Manila, one was born in Caracas. 4 children, different parts of the world. He's, of course, from Quarantine Berbice and a very proud son of Guyana. Mr. Randy worked, he actually got his Juris Doctorate from the Rutgers University in New Jersey, his legal education from Wooding Law School in Trinidad, and of course his bachelor's from Brooklyn College here in New York. He's very proud to say that his high school is from the Quarantine High School in Guyana. Randy has been very, very involved over his years in the US. He's in the diplomatic field. He works with the State Department. He represented the US as the Consul General in Toronto, Canada. He was also in the Philippines. He works in Venezuela. He has done so much different things for his country, his new country of the United States of America. He is an American educated lawyer, a former American diplomat, and a State Department official. His diplomatic postings, I said, was in the Philippines, Venezuela, Washington, and Trinidad. He's highly decorated. A lot of awards was given to him, including the Intelligence Watch Office of the Year. He's admitted to the bar of the United States in New Jersey, in Trinidad, and of course, Guyana. He currently practices international law and U.S. immigration. So Randy, welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, before we get into the details of today's program, we want to show our viewers some of the events for the last 3 days as it took place in Guyana. So we go now to Devin, and Devin will take us through for the last 3 days as we welcome Mr. Derrick Arjune, who is an executive of the PNC here in New York, and he will join us shortly on the program. So
one of the key issues on the agenda would be the statement just released by the Honorable Ms. Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados and Chairman of CARICOM. I believe by now most of you would have seen that. Apparently it details an agreement that was brokered by CARICOM between the Leader of the Opposition and the President of Guyana, Mr. David Granger, in relation to the recount of the boxes for Region 4. I understand from that statement, and I had the invidious task of confirming the authenticity of that statement for the court by communication directly with the Office of the Secretary General of CARICOM. It has been confirmed. I understand that arrangements are being made to have those persons who are detailed in that statement present in Guyana in short order. So I believe that the modalities of that will be discussed shortly at our meeting at GECOM, and hopefully if you catch us there quickly thereafter, we can give you a report.
That I led a high-level team of CARICOM Prime Ministers to Georgetown earlier this week to meet with all of the affected parties from the recent general elections of March 2nd. CARICOM has remained engaged over the last few days. I would wish to announce that after discussions this morning, President Granger made a request of the Caribbean community to field an independent high-level team to supervise the recounting of the ballots in Region 4 in accordance with the ruling of the Chief Justice of 11th March 2020. This has been agreed to by the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Barrett Jagdeo. We believe that this is a giant step in being able to determine the will of the Guyanese people in the election of March 2nd. It will also allow the electoral process to regain the confidence of all locally, regionally, and internationally. I have spoken directly to both the President and the Leader of the Opposition, and they have committed to abide by the results of a fair and transparent recount of each and every ballot as supervised by the CARICOM team. We also agreed that there needs to be steps taken to secure the integrity of the ballot boxes until the recount takes place. The independent high-level team will be chaired by former Attorney General and former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ms. Francine Barron from Dominica, and it will comprise Mr. Anthony Boatswain, former Minister of Finance of Grenada, and Ms. Cynthia Barrow-Giles of the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, senior lecturer in the Department of Government and Politics. They will also be accompanied by 2 electoral officials from Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago. Both President Granger and the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Jagdeo, have agreed that the recount should commence once the CARICOM team is on the ground. I can confirm that all efforts are being made to have the team in Guyana as soon as possible. A further announcement will be made as to the exact details once the team is on the ground.
Hey guys, just giving everybody a quick update here. We are at GECOM this afternoon, just so everybody sees All the region 4 containers are all locked. Anug has all these containers all locked up. There's more containers down at the back. All those containers that you may or may not be seeing down at the back there are all total of 6 or 7 containers fully locked. All right, Anug has their keys on them and they've been watching them. They've all been transported here not too long ago from around the city, from around region 4. All the other containers from around the country are also here.
How this would affect the meeting or the proposed meeting with GECOM, CARICOM, and that proposed
Yes, it's statutory function, but I think this matter is now probably at another level, and it becomes a question of the Commission, which has ultimate responsibility for the work of GECOM, to give consideration to the matter in the context of the evolving controversy.
You said that you're waiting some clarifications. Can you expound a bit on what clarification?
Well, initially when we got the communication, it seemed to be suggested it was Region 4 they were referring to. And so we wanted clarification on that. And there are also going to be questions about the modalities.
As somebody who has been in the system for quite some time, if the recount for all 10 administrative regions or electoral districts are approved by the commission, how long will it take? I'm sure it will go past the 15-day deadline.
And certainly it will go past that deadline. It's going to be a tedious process that will take some time.
The chairperson of the Elections Commission, Justice Retired Claudette Singh, has stated publicly that she will abide by the ruling of the court. I too have said that I will abide by the ruling of the court. As a result of the delays and statements by the observer missions, the Caribbean community sent a 5-member delegation of prime ministers to Guyana on a 2-day mission on 11th to 12th March to work with stakeholders to craft a path forward out of the present political situation. Prime Minister of Barbados, the Right Honourable Mia Motley, who is chairperson of CARICOM, was accompanied by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley of Trinidad and Tobago, Roosevelt Skerritt of Dominica, Dr. Keith Mitchell of Grenada, and Dr. Ralph Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In response to the CARICOM initiative by the 5 Prime Ministers, I agreed that a total national recount could be done to satisfy the questions raised by observers and the citizens. I had a telecommunications conference with Prime Minister Mia Motley today, 15th of March 2020. I proposed that the CARICOM initiative should operate within the legal framework of the Constitution of Guyana and respect the role of the Elections Commission and the rulings of the Supreme Court. It will not act independently. I urged also that the Commission be allowed to craft the terms of reference governing the relationship between the CARICOM initiative and the Elections Commission. The organizational structure, which should embody supervisory and technical elements, should be determined by the Elections Commission. The Government of Guyana looks forward to a total national recount being completed as soon as possible under the auspices of the Elections Commission.
This morning, after the delegation would have done their site visit, I am told that persons were asked, including GECOM staff, to evacuate the building to do some security sweep. Excuse me, and to do, no, that's not COVID, and to do fumigation of the building. I'm a loss now, because as far as I'm aware, we took a decision collectively, if not explicitly stated. The tacit understanding of everyone is that this process must commence in the shortest possible time. My understanding or my hope was that it would have started early this morning. We are now 10 to 1, even taking into consideration the task that had to be completed this morning. I thought, worst case scenario, we start in the afternoon. I don't see, as far as I'm aware, no containers with ballots have arrived. No personnel has been set up, but more importantly, no advisory has been issued to the relevant stakeholders for a start time. Persons are calling me. I've received in excess of 200 calls for the day about what time are we going to start, what is necessary, who is going to be there. Everyone is now confused because they would have heard the report that emanated from the meeting last night. Myself and Mr. Alexander, fellow commissioner, both came out, gave almost identical reports of the process that we've agreed to, and now we wait. We have been waiting. We are now 2 weeks exactly since elections, the polling process has been completed, and we don't know what is happening.
Back. Randy, we're getting a feedback on your side. I don't know if there is something that is creating some feedback, the background noise. So if you anything affecting the background noise. All right. What we have seen in that video, in those series of videos, is the events that took place over the last 4 days. If you can recall, the president and the leader of the opposition agreed that there will be a recount of all the ballots from regions 1 through 10. The CARICOM personnel arrived in Guyana on Saturday with the expectation that everything hopefully will be done by yesterday. Today, we have seen some hiccups in the system. And I think if you look at the legal side of it, because Guyana is a very litigious society now, anyone will go to court to stop anything that is not legally done. So I think within context, it is agreed now that the president and the leader of opposition and the CARICOM Secretary General will sign off on those documents, and hopefully that'll be done tonight, and maybe the count will start tonight or first thing in the morning. So that is the sequence of events. But as I said in my opening monologue, we are like the grand old Duke of York. You know, we are going up the hill, and then we are going down again. So when we are up, we are up. When we are down, we are down. When we are halfway up, we are neither up nor down. And Guyana is becoming slowly a laughing stock around the world. I hope that this does not continue, and we find ourselves in the rightful place in history as we look forward to this count being done hopefully this week. And whoever wins the election will be sworn in as the new president, hopefully by this weekend. So gentlemen, and welcome to our good friend here, Derrick Arjune. He's an executive member of the PNC here in New York, and he'll be part of our co-moderator tonight. So he'll be asking you guys questions as well. Randy, let's go first to you. The president has some choices. He can renege on this agreement and be sworn as president. That's one option. He can go ahead and allow the count to happen because apparently he's getting a lot of pressure from Congress placed not to sign the agreement. But if he doesn't sign it, that's an option as well. He can become the president, but then there's a lot of repercussion that will follow. Can you tell us, being a diplomat and working with the State Department and your experiences around the world? I know you were in the Philippines, you were in Haiti. Tell us what is likely to happen to Guyana should we not follow the rule of law and this recount be allowed to take place?
Well, it's not what's likely to happen, what has already happened. The entire international community that has been engaged in this process have uniformly come to one conclusion, that the elections are being rigged, and they have signaled They are not going to stand by and let an illegitimate president be sworn in. There will be repercussions. And to give you an indication of what we're talking about, the U.S. Secretary of State, it's not an embassy official or low-level person, but the actual Secretary of State had posted online that he had a discussion with the Deputy Canadian Prime Minister to speak of transition in Guyana. That is an extremely significant word in this context. They have already concluded there is a need for transition. Transition means change. One person goes, another one comes in. The Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs, who's the head of this entire region at the State Department, has also indicated that they will not recognize somebody who is sworn in as president when the results of the poll are in dispute. You have the Commonwealth have stood firmly behind Guyana and democracy. The OAS have stood firmly behind Guyana. The European Union has stood firmly behind Guyana. You have the United Kingdom has stood firmly behind Guyana, the United States, Norway, and the list goes on. There are about 60 different organizations that have expressed an opinion on uniformly. They have questioned the legitimacy of the process and the frustration of the will of the Guyanese people as expressed on the May 2nd elections. I mean, we're going over a week.
2 weeks.
And no results, 2 weeks, and no results to be announced, right? In my travels around Guyana, the concern is palpable, and this reaches across ethnic lines, reaches across, social lines. By and large, except for a small handful of people want this thing to come to an end so they can breathe again. They want their votes to count. And so what happens if President Granger does not back down? What could happen? This is not a theoretical case. About a year ago in the Belgian Congo in Africa, we had a similar situation where their equivalent of GECOM had essentially stolen the election from the opposition leader. The United States responded by revoking the visas of every single individual involved in that process and their families. And while they haven't spoken, they would impose individual sanctions such as freezing of bank accounts, or freezing of assets located in properties, anything located in the United States. And I believe the Canadians will follow suit, the British will follow suit, and the EU will follow suit. So all of those people who believe they can ignore the will of the Guyanese people and the international community are sadly mistaken. This, taken to its logical conclusion, will be very, very bad for some people. Now, what else could happen in Guyana? We can have the imposition of sanctions of Guyana as a country. What that means is that there would be no corresponding banking relationship with banks in Guyana, cripple the economy of Guyana. They can impose an economic embargo on Guyana, which means that it will bring tremendous hardship to the people of Guyana, and it will take us back to the days of Berner, when we have grave shortages. If you look at neighboring Venezuela right now, what the U.S. sanctions are doing to Venezuela is cripple that economy. Just 2 days ago, I met a family that lived in Venezuela most of their life. Now they run back to Guyana because nothing to eat in Venezuela. And ultimately, what could happen is, with the approval of the UN Security Council, they can get authorization for the use of force to come to Guyana to assist the GDF and the police in upholding the Constitution of Guyana. Now, that is not a far-fetched scenario at all. It happened in Grenada, happened in Haiti, and and I will tell you that in reading between the lines, the United Nations, for there to be any kind of coercive enforcement action, requires a majority vote at the Security Council. There are 15 members in the Security Council. There are 5 permanent members. Permanent members are the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. Any one of those 5 could veto any kind of enforcement action against Guyana. Now, I found it very significant that France, a permanent member of the Security Council, recently issued a statement. So the way I read it is behind the scenes, the wheels for enforcement have started to turn, right? I wouldn't be surprised a resolution is drafted, votes are being gotten, and I don't know where Russia or China would stand, but all they have to do is abstain, and Guyana, and well, not really Guyana so much, but the cabal that has stolen power and wants to remain indefinitely in power will pay a very dear price.
That's a very bleak picture you're painting there, Randy. And it's really...
It saddens me as a Guyanese to confront that picture.
But we have seen it happen around the world. That, as you mentioned, in Africa it happened. We know in Haiti, Aristide had to leave after the election was called against him. He wanted to stay in power, and he was forced to leave. Noriega in Panama, he was deposed.
Yes.
So America will not allow another Venezuela to strive up next door. And I think President Granger knows, he's a historian, and he knows exactly what the message is. And I pray and hope that whatever he's saying, we're not seeing the, I mean, someone mentioned today, I think Gene mentioned in one of the channel I'm on, he said Mr. Mingo was very active and agile when he was calling out the statements from that spreadsheet, but now he's moving as, a turtle, so the thing is, I don't see the excitement in GECOM to get this thing done as quickly as possible so that Guyana can move on and the Guyanese people can really work to get ourselves out of this, what is going on, in addition to the coronavirus we're talking about.
Yes. Well, my personal view, and I don't want to sound indelicate, but in my opinion, watching GECOM operate, GECOM is a glorified APNU party group. They are not fulfilling their mandate in an objective and fair manner, and the entire international community has come to that conclusion, right? And people in GECOM, regardless what happens, will find themselves facing sanctions from the international community.
Well, if I may, since you have such a negative view of GECOM, and you included in that view the international community, what's the sense of going through with this count? Would it...
To give effect to the will of the Guyanese people.
Well, you did say that GECOM has been compromised. It is an APNU entity, and you said, if I recall correctly,
group.
Well, an APNU group or entity, whatever you want to characterize it, but you connected as a vassal of the APNU grouping, and you also say that members of the international community share that view. If indeed your position is correct, what sense does it make for there to be a recount which would be done largely under the guidance of GECOM?
Well, I was under the impression that a 5-member CARICOM high-level delegation was going to oversee the process, and GECOM was going to only assist. Because if GECOM is going to take charge of this process, you're right, it doesn't make sense at all. But GECOM has discredited itself by its actions so far. I don't know if you recall, the American ambassador, the UK High Commissioner, walked out of GECOM, deeming their presence there a waste of time. The OAS observer mission that observed what was going on in GECOM, they packed up their bags and they left, and they said they were engaged in an exercise in futility. The Carter Center has been very harsh in its judgment of GECOM. You have the American Embassy, the UK High Commission, the Canadian High Commission, the EU, and Norway, all basically expressing no confidence in GECOM. So this is not my view. This is an empirical exercise where you look at all the people who have come down against GECOM. How can GECOM produce results where in one area they have more votes for APNU than registered voters? Tell me what credibility do they have?
Well, if I may, sir, that has also been reported with regard to the PPP. But
tell me where?
I'm not here to dispute those facts with you.
No, we are not getting into dispute.
I'm here to ask
We're engaging in an intelligent, fact-based discussion.
I want to ask you about the usefulness of GECOM in this process. You have to remember that GECOM is a primary constitutional body for counting votes. Now there has been a serious dispute about the result. And that dispute has been brought about by the opposition and others saying that the count is not good. Nevertheless, in the new arrangement that has been put in place, GECOM will play a role in this. It has the expertise to do the counting. What
I'm sorry. If I may interrupt.
Since you object, since you object to GECOM being a part of this, what exactly do you think GECOM should be doing in this recount?
Randy, if you don't mind, hold that question. I know Vishnu is around, and we want to hear Vishnu's views as well. But Vishnu, before you come on, Vishnu, I just want to tell my friend that the way GECOM has acted for the last week, and Vishnu is there, Randy is there in Guyana, they have become a part of APNU. So there's no, any reasonable person will see that and understand that GECOM is not really acting that independent role that it's supposed to act. But Vishnu, what do you think of Derrick's question about GECOM counting back? But as Randy said, the 5 people from CARICOM will oversee it, which is very important.
Hi, thank you very much, Charles, and it's a good discussion so far. My specialty is in business and in management, and the only thing I can say about GECOM is that if it was a private sector organization, quite a few people would have been fired or in jail by now. When it comes to the politics, I'm here this evening to speak on things from a business perspective. And, Guyana is already finding its way into somewhat of a perfect storm. We've been talking about oil for such a long time. And due to the global happenings right now, the oil price has come down significantly. So whatever profits we were expecting from oil revenues will significantly come down. And coupled with that, we have a virus that's going around the world as well. Guyana now has 7 cases, of which we had 1 fatality. Given our health institutions, we do have to, at this point in time, hope that they really have it under control and that it's not really higher than 7 as well, and that people really make sure that they heed the instructions and stay indoors as much as possible, minimize contact, because that could further devastate the economy. And then coupled with that, we now have 2-week-old elections that is really causing a lot of uncertainty within the business community. Many in the business community have to make their investment decisions. There are quite a few people, quite a few companies outside of Guyana calling on a daily basis, asking for updates, putting their plans on hold. Even locally as well, many business people are going into emergency mode in terms of keeping their businesses running, starting to move towards how will we have a skeleton staff running the business, because at the moment sales aren't where it should be. And we sometimes forget as well that with these hits on a business and on the the private sector. The private sector is the one that's supposed to be generating profits, and these are the profits that will be then taxed to have the government continue running. And putting the private sector in such a situation only makes it worse for the country whenever we do recover. But if we're talking about the elections, we've been following it for 2 weeks, and all the symptoms, because we do have private sector observers there, and when all is said and done, there is so much video evidence around these elections that you could actually piece back every single piece of the days that have led up to today. And every piece of video evidence is pointing towards, a twist in the direction of where it's supposed to be ending up. Because up to Tuesday night, I would say, things were progressing pretty smoothly. And, if I had to assume, which, it's as a business, you have to assume what's going to happen in the future. But if you look at the behavior after Tuesday night, when I suppose both parties knew who actually won, the behavior on behalf of GECOM and more particularly the sitting government and their representatives started to seem very suspect. Every single delay that could have been created in the books has been created and thrown at the process. I myself am not a fan of the PPP. I think in their time in power, they could have sorted out a lot of these things, moved towards shared governance, moved towards structuring GECOM in a better way, really improving the process. They did not make use of that opportunity. I suppose when you're in power, power goes to your head, and it might have also gone to the heads of the current government, because they also seem to be very reluctant at facing the reality, whatever that reality may be. And Guyana suffers in the meantime. Guyana and its future is suffering in the meantime, because we're 2 weeks in at the current rate. And if I look at the news of what's just happening, more delays are happening at the conference center right now, with possibly the count for this evening being called off again due to more delay tactics as well. And in the meantime, the entire country here, everybody who's here is continuing to suffer. And without a strong government in place, how will we deal with a virus that can really wreak havoc in our country as well? So these are some of the concerns in the business community. And again, after this is all said and done, and rather sooner than later, we do need to have serious investigations into what has actually transpired, and people do need to pay the price for their behavior and their actions, because if it isn't immediately, and any observer would deem this type of behavior obstructive and illegal.
Yes, Derrick.
Look, I deeply appreciate your sober view, your balanced view that you just put forward. It's quite nationalistic, quite forward-looking. But as a business person, someone who also has looked at what is going on in this election, what would satisfy you with regard to the counting of the votes that Guyanese put in the ballot boxes on March 2nd? Would you want GECOM to still be involved? Should GECOM still be involved? What exactly would you want to happen?
You broke up a little bit, but from what I understand is that we all as Guyanese here, we would want a transparent process. We want to make sure that our votes are counted. I think the entire process went very well, and as Randy would have indicated, there seems to be significant influence from the outside into GECOM. So it does make us worried. That's why Guyana actually breathed a sigh of relief when CARICOM stepped in, and this 5-person delegation would have really overseen the process, because everyone else who was supposed to oversee the process was thrown out of the building at times, was denied their right to observe and ascertain the results. So we would have hoped that with an agreement between the two leaders, that CARICOM operatives would have actually been able to oversee the work, and if they notice irregularities, that they would be able to speak out on that and actually have more definitive motions. What is the other option? Do we do a live recount on television? What do we do? We do back the election? Is this a ploy to deem that this election was not done properly and that we need another election? I think you, as a representative of the PNC, if I were to ask you, maybe you know better of what the actual intent is of all these delays.
Yeah, I know. I think Derrick might have some intent. Before you go on, Derrick, Randy, you were attorney. Derrick's an attorney. I just got a note that the PNC cabal, if I can use that term in Congress Place, they have given President Grains an ultimatum. You do not sign that agreement. If you sign it, you're out. Do not sign it. Resign by tomorrow morning, and they will make Walla Lawrence the candidate for the president of APNU. Two things. One, is that legal? Because in the list that they submitted GECOM, David Granger is the president candidate. If he is forced to step down, and the APNU now made Walla Lawrence the candidate, is that something that can happen?
Charles,
maybe you
Charles, if I may,
and Derrick can answer that.
That is absolute nonsense. I'm sorry to say.
Okay.
It doesn't accord with the Constitution of Guyana, and it's certainly not the way the PNC operates. That is someone feeding you a question to raise fears and put the PNC party in disrepute.
Derrick,
that is not a rational
APNU
question.
has never observed the Constitution. They love Guyana. They have broke. President Granger has been the only president who has repeatedly flaunted the Constitution. So to say that they can't do what they want, it's I know what you're saying, but they have flaunted umpteen times.
I'm reluctant to sit here and talk about the excesses of the PNC as opposed to the PPP. We do have an election recount to get done so that our country moves forward. Perhaps we can talk about the wrongdoings of both entities off the air. But I want to ask Vishnu, and we'll come back to you, Randy. You said that it was heartening that CARICOM came in to look at the process. As a business person, and perhaps I could go forward and actually, and speaking to your other business associates, at the end of this process, which will be overseen by CARICOM, do you believe that you as a business person and other business people will be satisfied with the result, regardless of who wins?
That would be a clear yes. If it is overseen by CARICOM, the procedures are followed, and they make that declaration, or they verify that what is on the declaration is accurate. The entire business community, I'm sure, would be very happy to live in a democratic country that is led by a government that was chosen by the people, not by a government that a returning officer put in place based on his allegiances or his instructions. And it would be very difficult for all these other SOPs to be the same, and just what he is now manufacturing to not be the same. And that's why I spoke about symptoms, because I'm not there, I'm not holding his SOP, I'm not talking to him, but all the symptoms point to something really going wrong. But to answer your question, yes, if CARICOM were to oversee that process, we want to live in a democratic country. Randy started to speak about the types of sanctions that could be applied to Guyana, and of course I would hope that in the beginning, if we do go down that route, that they are very surgical and they do address and are really focused on the people who really put us in this situation. However, that can be very detrimental for Guyana, because
absolutely,
we don't manufacture a lot in Guyana. We depend heavily on imports, and that would cripple the way we live currently. Access to foreign currency would also be a big issue. So to think about all those repercussions, and I think some of you would have faced these things in the 60s, 70s, and in the 80s, one of the big lessons for me in the past 2 weeks is that the past can repeat itself, and to also see the reason why this may be happening. And I talk, I might be this color, but I talk to everyone, and one of the things that I notice, especially with my Afro-Guyanese friends, is that a lot of them feel really oppressed during the years of the PPP and power, and some of them are willing to look past whatever the current government is doing to stay in power. And I know it is wrong, they know it is wrong, but they know the pain they felt as well. And it goes back to what you said. The wrongs that have been done in the past, does that make it right to continue doing wrong now? So
Randy, you want to comment there? I know there are legitimate fears with the African community, with the Indian government as in the PPP, and there's legitimate fears in the Indian community with the African government like in the APNU. Randy, you want to comment there and your views?
Yes. But first, I think that's a very, very important point. Because I live outside of Guyana, but I've been here for almost a month now. And what I've seen over the last couple of weeks troubled me greatly. I remember as a little boy in Port Morant, ethnic violence, fear, genuine fear. And, once we open that Pandora's box where racial hatred gets translated into violence, it would be extremely difficult to put the genie back in the bottle. And so we as a people have to think about the ramifications of our actions. And this is not about African versus Indian. This is about right and wrong. This is about democracy, the people's will to determine their government. Then there's a small handful of people. Ironically, one of the main financiers and strategists for APNU is an Indian businessman. He is at the nerve center of what's going on right now. This is not about race. He, at the end of the day, will be one of the biggest beneficiaries of a stolen power, stolen government. But I want to get back to a couple of things that Mr. Arjune said. He compared the PPP's behavior with APNU and the PNC's behavior. I do not recall a single election where the PPP was credibly accused of rigging an election. I do not recall a single time that the PPP has refused to turn over power peacefully. When Donald Ramotar was president and he got wind that the APNU and the AFC were combining to move a motion of no confidence, he very rapidly dissolved Parliament and called new elections ahead of the time that were constitutional due. Now, Mr. Arjune he's my learned colleague, and he knows the law and he knows the Constitution. And he says, GECOM has a constitutional role to play. Now, I would like to liken that to being in an aircraft. The pilot has a role to fly that aircraft, and he's going into a steep nosedive to crash that plane. Are we just going to sit there and let the plane crash? GECOM has lost, I'm not saying all of GECOM, a small handful of people in GECOM have lost credibility. Section 84(1) of the Representation of the People's Act specify in excruciating detail how the election votes are tallied. What it says is the statement of poll generated after the election from each polling station is stacked up at the polling station. 2 copies are put in sealed envelopes sent to GECOM, and a copy is provided to each political party present. Now, both APNU and the PPP, I would imagine, by midday on Tuesday, knew the results of the election. They both had the same statement of polls, which is why Mr. Migo had to dispense of the statement of polls and come up with these fictitious tally sheets. He has steadfastly refused to count the statement of polls in public. He's refused to in public. Now, the PPP has taken polls and put them on the internet for all to see. Why hasn't PNC done that? Right? So you can't talk about the constitutional role of GECOM when they have abdicated that role. Totally abdicated it. say a certain number of people. What I would propose very likely is what happened in 1997, where the commissioners of GECOM took charge of the process. There's nothing to say that the chairperson of GECOM, 3 PPP commissioners and 3 PNC commissioners oversee this process, sit there with CARICOM. But you see, there are people who do not want any kind of meaningful oversight, because then meaningful oversight will lead to the proclamation of the rightful winner.
Well,
and basically,
yeah. If you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all.
In your presentation, you have labeled GECOM as an APNU entity. But GECOM has 3 commissioners from the PPP and a chairperson. Aren't those persons involved in this process? And secondly, aren't they responsible in part for what GECOM is doing?
Well, if you were to look at what has happened, the PPP commissioners of GECOM have been deliberately frustrated. The CEO of GECOM, Mr. Mingo, and the deputy CEO and the public relations officer have all refused to comply with instructions from the commission, right? The chairwoman and the majority of the commission takes a position, and they move differently from what's being taken. No, the commission did not authorize tabulating the votes from tally sheets. The commission is very clear on that. But in a true form of a dictatorship, basically, let them make all the noise that they want, and we will do as we please.
Breaking news, Randy, and to my friend Derrick, from the newsroom, police threaten to arrest political party reps if they fail to leave the site of the national recount. So, and there's a picture of the Commissioner of GECOM, Robinson Ben, on the ground in protest against the attempt to forcibly remove him by the ranks of the Guyana Police Force. So there's a lot of things going on right now at the convention center that it appears to me, and unless we call a spade, GECOM, most of the workers who are responsible seem to be lock and barrel with the APNU at this point in time. And now the police force has come out to the riot squad to move people away from the center when they're supposed to be there for the count. They're now saying that the place is fumigated, they have to leave, and they come back tomorrow morning to start the count. Which one is correct? I am not sure.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you added that proviso, Charles, because everything has to be put in context. I don't know why the police is doing that. I don't know what the PPP activists were doing, if anything at all. So until we get the full and accurate facts there, we should not say that the police are now involved in doing a wrong thing. We should not say that this perhaps is another delaying tactic. Let's get all the facts. One of the things here...
I agree. I totally agree with that, yes.
I'm not asking a question. I just want to make a statement. We continue to act as if we are not Guyanese. We are these two camps. And once one camp does something, we demonize that camp without looking at the facts. And I'm suggesting to you, until I know what is going on here, and I'm suggesting to the panelists and my co-moderator that we wait to see what exactly happened. But if I may, Randy, do you believe that President David Granger is truly interested in having an accurate count here, one, for the Guyanese people, and two, to prevent the possible imposition of sanctions?
Well, I honestly believe that President Granger would like to do the right thing and for Guyana, for himself, and for the people of Guyana, regardless of race. President Granger is a man that's advanced in age, and it's no secret that he has health issues. And the question is, what does he want to leave for posterity? The image of a dictator or the image of a statesman who stood above this? Now, I have been reliably informed and I've been analyzing this situation. So there is, in fact, a rift right now inside of the APNU. There is I know the names, but I won't call them here, but there's a small handful of people who have essentially delivered an ultimatum to President Granger. And they want to hang on to power at all costs because they're the ones who have been creaming off the Guyanese people and its economy. And they see tens of billions of dollars coming, and they don't want that to slip through their fingers. But I want to get back of the role, of the point that you made about the role of the police. I was privileged enough to be here on election day, on Monday, and I basically was moving around to see what's going on, more out of curiosity than anything else. And I got wind that a mob of about 40 people had invaded the Monrepo Government School. When I arrived there, I had a driver with me. When I arrived there, indeed, I saw a mob, clearly new activists, who arrived in mini buses. They actually stormed the compound of the school, went straight to the door of the polling station, and were harassing and haranguing people, creating an air of tension, and I think deliberately so to suppress the PPP votes. I was proud of the police. There were two lone policemen that day who obviously couldn't deal with an unruly crowd of 40 people who appeared to be them drunk or on drugs because they were so irrational. But the police apparently called for backup. And very quickly, a pickup arrived with 6 officers, and they were successful in dismantling the crowd in a peaceful manner. And before I left, I saw the riot police arrive also. So I have faith in the police service of Guyana. I have faith in the Guyana Defense Force, but in any organization, you will have a few bad apples. And I think the way I see it is the cabal within APNU certainly would have manipulated certain people at GECOM, and they would have their friends in the police service to help them implement their plan, right? So, but I'm hopeful for the future of Guyana. I'm hopeful that the police and the military remain professional, and President Granger, as a commander-in-chief, can at any moment call on the police and the military to maintain the rule of law in Guyana, and then they will respond positively. And if they're unable to do so.
Well said. Gentlemen, I did an analysis of the elections of 2006, 2011, 2015, and 2020 of the results that was declared from all the region except Region 4, but then Region 4 result came out subsequently, that not the one that Mr. Mingo did, but the one that was shown before. We want to show you the screen of the analysis of what the PPP, this is the PPP votes for regions for 2006, 2011, 15, and 20. In Region 1, as a matter of fact, for all the regions, PPP increased their vote in every region. The average increase was 14.8% over 2015. But look what happened in Region 4. Region 4, the PPP got almost, 10,000 votes more than 2015. So what it tells me is that a lot of people who did not vote for the PPP in 2015, they came out and support the PPP in Region 4. But all the other regions, Region 1, they got 27% more, Region 2, 16% more, Region 3, 18% more, Region 5, 9% more, Region 6, 6% more, Region 7, 23% more. Even Region 10, they got almost 15% more than they got in 2015. Let's look at the PNC and APNU. APNU and PNC, they got increase in all the region except region 2 and region 6. Region 2, they got 13 votes less than in 2015 for region 2. And region 6, they got almost 1,750 votes less than in 2015. They got increase in the rest of them. But look at region 4. In 2015, they got 113. And now they got 114,000. So they really did not increase their vote that they were expecting to win this election big. Now let's do analysis of both of them together. And this is the spectrum of both parties. So in 2015, PPP got 202,000 votes. APNU got 207,000 votes. So APNU won that election by about 5,000, just under 5,000
Charles,
votes.
you keep saying APNU.
Yeah, APNU AFC.
Please
okay.
say APNU AFC.
Okay,
it
great.
matters.
Thank you. In 2020, look what the PP did. They got almost 30,000 votes more than in 2015. APNU AFC got 7,800 more votes than 2015. So what I'm saying is this. APNU AFC won 2015 by about 4,000 votes. In this election, 2020, they won by, they got about 7,800 votes more. So together, they got about 13,000 votes more. But look what the PEP did. The PP got almost 30,000 votes more. So based on this analysis, which Mr. Mingo, it took me 10 minutes to prepare, and spreadsheet is amazing. It's accurate once you put in the right numbers. And the thing is, what it is showing is that when this recount is done and is taking place, hopefully by tomorrow morning they start doing the recount, it will show that the PPP has won the election. And the thing is, if APNU AFC, and my friend Derrick is a very honest and fair guy, in my opinion, if they won the election, they would have been crying on top of their voice, let us do the recount now. Let us get it on with it, because we know we win the election. Why are they afraid to start this recount again? They're putting roadblocks after roadblocks after roadblocks because they don't want to start the recount to get the actual result. Derrick, what is your view?
That your statement there is completely wrong. That they've been putting up roadblocks.
What do you call it then? What do you call it?
You know, I've been avoiding trying to defend the party I support.
No, you want to defend it.
No, because I don't want us to get into this trading of arguments on the issue. But
no, it's your view, Derrick. It's your view. It's not argument.
I do want to say that since on the day of election and the days following, there are credible reports that GECOM was seriously interfered with in doing its constitutional duty.
Really?
It was by the APNU AFC perverted them from doing their duty.
Let me finish, please. Instead, you've heard that it is the GECOM side that has not been doing what it's supposed to do. But I have heard of shouting, screaming, the saying of profanities to GECOM workers, and other rowdy behavior occurring within the confines of GECOM headquarters, where the count was taking place. And very little is said by the opposition about this behavior. My friend Charles keeps saying that GECOM is a part of this.
They've shown themselves for the last week, Derrick, that they've become a part of that. And just to your point, if you're seeing your house, your children is taken away in front of you, are you going to sit down there doing nothing? All the parties that contest the election, every one of them, except APNU AFC, they objected vigorously to what Mr. Mingo was doing with a bogus spreadsheet that he prepared. Of course, they had to speak. tension raised. People will raise their voice. They will use obscene language. That is normal.
Well,
but the thing is,
it's not normal.
Well,
if you're seeing it's not permissible. It's not permissible
Derrick,
in a
Derrick,
place
my friend,
like that.
if you're seeing...
Besides, much has been said about the spreadsheet. My understanding is that the spreadsheet has been used in other districts, and there's been no objection to the use of the spreadsheet. But in Region 4, there has been strenuous objection to the use of the spreadsheet.
Before Vishnu and Randy answer that,
I'd like to remind you that the Chief Justice said that GECOM, that the RO has the right to determine the means of counting votes, and that would include the use of a spreadsheet. It was not, I understand that the PPP and its lawyers are saying that she specifically barred the use of the spreadsheet.
Derrick, can I
I
answer before Randy, before you come on, please, if you don't mind? Just one point there. There is nothing fundamentally wrong with a spreadsheet. I just showed a spreadsheet on the screen. That is prepared from a source document I got from GECOM website, the actual result. But when Mr. Mingo, like Houdini, the great magician, pulling numbers out of the air, like thin air numbers coming in, that has no basis on the statement of polls, we have a problem with a spreadsheet like that. Because that's a bogus spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is not a problem. It's that the spreadsheet must represent, it must reflect what is on the statement of poll. It did not. And that is the problem, my friend Derrick. We have a video to show. And gentlemen, you're going to come in after this video. You have the video there, Devin?
Sure.
Guys, it's disgusting that I have to do this again. And, you know, I usually like to make sure everything is very clear and people understand what's going on. Let me just do a quick flip. So what you see here is there's police now in riot gear that has barricaded themselves across in front of the containers and now are walking forward trying to remove people and getting everyone out. So look, everyone's getting into their car now. Here's everyone. Look, police are lined off along the passage. Let me just, they're removing us. Guys, we're not gonna go far. We're gonna be around in the area watching the containers, so please don't panic about that part. But let me just tell everybody what's happening right now. You know, a lot of things came up from what happened in that Ashman's building, and you heard a lot about how we're hooligans and look at all the awful things that we did. Let me just tell you guys what's happening right now. We've been here peacefully all day, calmly, quietly. We didn't cause any issues. We just waited and waited, and we decided when we heard that they're not doing the count that we're just going to stick around here because we're going to guard the containers, and you know it's going to be kind of a camp out. You know, all the political parties, all the observers are just going to stick around just to make sure everything is safeguarded. They are now using police in riot gear to bait us to get angry, and you know, this is a democracy fight. We are here fighting them and telling them no, we have to stay with these containers, and they're physically removing us. They're walking forward in police in riot gear, and they're pushing us out of the building, and they're pushing us out of the compound. So this is where tensions rise now, and this is what the people are now going to see a misconstrued interpretation, construed in interpretation, because look, even the police are videoing us to try and wait to get us to bait to react. But we've all come together and we said, no, we're not going to behave like that this time. Okay, we have our locks on those containers. We have people in the vicinity that could see the containers from where we are, and we're not gonna cause a problem. We're not gonna fight this physically. All right, we're leaving calmly, peacefully. Here. Oh, sorry guys. You're already on. Look at this. You guys can see the police in the riot gear. Look at this. Look at that. That's a barricade of police forcing everyone out. Okay, here's police telling everyone to leave. All of them there. They are forcing us out now and leaving those containers in order for us to not be around those containers. All right, guys, we are going to leave peacefully today. We are going to go calmly. We're not going to cause an issue. All right? But you know, you guys can get a much better... Officers, sorry, we're leaving right now. We're showing everybody what's going on. Mr. Schumann, they're asking us to leave again. You can jump. I'll give you a ride. Right, here, there you guys go. Look at this. I'm trying to be the last to leave, right? Just to show everybody what's going on. They are videoing us now as well, right? And look at this. Look at this. A line of police forcing out to the camp.
Randy, you had confidence a minute ago on the Guyana police force. Do you still have that faith in the police force?
Well, I still do, because if you recall, I said the Guyana police force, by and large, is a professional organization that respects the Constitution of Guyana, but like in any other organization, you have some bad apples. What we are seeing are the bad apples who have taken instructions, obviously, from the cabal within APNU, right? And
what is bad about that scene? What is bad about that scene?
Well, first of all,
tell me, Randy,
Mr. Arjune, Mr. Arjune,
sorry, go ahead.
To maintain faith in the process, there's certain things that are fundamental. All the parties have the right and the obligation to remain with the ballots until there's a final count.
Absolutely.
If the police and riot gear are pushing out the PPP scrutineers and the folks, then what we have now, we're creating an atmosphere of mistrust and suspicion, because when people are moved, everybody's going to speculate, well, APNU in collusion with certain PPP, certain corrupt police officers infiltrated the containers and have basically tampered with the ballot boxes, and by then would have delegitimized the election. I mean, that's the ultimate objective.
Let me propose this to you, please, if you allow me. I don't know the gentleman
Yes, sir.
who just spoke, but I dare say that he's not a key PPP operative.
No, he's an ANO guy. He's from the ANO.
Okay, so I would say to you, without any hesitation, that the PPP has authorized persons near those ballot boxes, and any other party that has the legal right to also has persons near that ballot boxes. You have to inquire why the police is doing this. You have to look at context. They're responsible for order. You don't know what is going on with regard to all those people being around the ballot boxes. You don't know the crowd, you don't know the temperature, you don't know what modality has been put in place with regard to the ballot boxes as CARICOM, a CARICOM supervised recount is about to take place. So before we condemn the police, we need to know the facts. Again, I hasten to say, know the facts.
Yeah, but
Mr. Arjune, I know the facts. I was there earlier today at the convention center, right after they fumigated. And what I was confronted by was a band of really angry, primed APNU supporters who were shouting anti-PPP slogans and insulting people who look different from them. And this is not what I'm seeing on television. This is what I witnessed my own two eyes today, right after lunch. So I'm not speaking from New York. I'm speaking from Georgetown, and I've made it my business to observe, because I want to be able, at the end of the day, to say I've witnessed this firsthand and I'm giving credible information.
Well, with all due respect, I was speaking to that video. I was not speaking to your experience today.
right, but to Derrick's point, Randy and Vishnu, if you can help us here. You have any information that the police asked everyone to leave, or only the opposition members of the looking at the box? Was the APNU people also asked to leave? Do you have any information on that?
But I want to be responsible. I haven't, since early in the day, I haven't been there. I don't know precisely what's going on in the ground right now, but I did get an email from somebody that said the police were putting them out, and this is a PPP supporter, a PPP activist, and someone who observed the election in an official capacity. right? So I didn't want to say this because I don't like to rely on emails and social media because those are things that can easily mischaracterize a situation.
Yeah, but
And I don't take
The Derrick point, is it only the opposition members that actually leave, or everyone was actually leave the compound? I mean, if the police
I'm,
ask everyone to leave, I think that's justifiable. But if they ask only one part, that we don't know.
yeah, well, I don't know yet. I don't know.
We will rest on that because we don't know if
Details, yeah.
if APNU supporters were excluded or if only PPP. We don't know. So we cannot look at that video in isolation.
But it's just curious, though, is that the center itself is locked. You can't get in the center because it's fumigated. This is outside of the center. It's a huge compound. As you know, everyone who knows the compound, it's a very huge compound. So the purpose of the police asking to leave the compound might be in question because the ballot box is in the container that is sealed. Nobody can break it. So why do they have to leave the compound? I really don't know.
Charles, I said I've been keeping away from talking about what the PPP did and what and what this government has done. But you have compelled me to say this.
Yes, go ahead.
That during the last 4.5 years of the Granger-led administration, there have been no torturing of Guyanese. There have been no unlawful imprisonment. There have been no unexplained deaths or deaths, especially on a mass basis. There have been no massacres. Our Constitution has been largely observed. The police force has sometimes been called in on corruption charges. So by and large, in the last 4 years, we've seen a return return of a police force that obeys the law. We still have acts of corruption. So if we look at the way our legal system, including the police force, is functioning in the last 4 years and compared to the previous 22 years, you would have to say that this government has been far more obedient to the laws and constitution of Guyana. I've been trying to keep away from that factual dispute, but I must say it, and if one were to take it to its logical conclusion, there's no reason to believe, despite this claim that the PNC cabal wants to stay in power, there's no reason to believe that the Granger-led administration will be instructing the police force to act in direct contravention to its role as the upholder and protector of the rights of Guyanese people.
Okay, and Derrick, I know Vishnu, I want to bring you in a minute, but just to I'm going to read this now, and we'll prove this tomorrow if it's correct or not. The police is moving only the opposition members. They are saying that the government has canceled the recount and has called on the CARICOM team to leave and return to their respective countries. They may be leaving tonight. If that is true, we are in a dangerous path, and we'll know that in the morning. But having said that, Derrick, you're right. The PPP, in their power, they did execute a lot of African youths, which I think was totally incorrect. There is a process to follow. But having said that, in the last 4 years, a lot of Indian communities were harassed and robbed, and a lot of things happening in the community. Not killing only, but they were robbed and the things taken away from them in schools and in different places. So it's really a messy situation in Guyana. Vishnu, you want to come in here?
Yeah, just wanted to also make the point that, we hear about the observers and their behavior. I know many of these observers personally, especially from the smaller parties and the various organizations, and these are upstanding professionals. If you look at the videos of how they've been baited and how they've been pushed around, I'm amazed that they haven't reacted far more angrily than I thought, even if I would have been in their position. But when you think about, the statistical probability of one party being pushed around versus another, you expect it to be equally distributed. But what I'm seeing so far is that everything that is currently happening is in favor or is against everyone else who's observing, against every other political party. And it has to be statistically impossible for a process to just favor one side and not favor the other side. And, it's the delays just continue. And I can understand that, for 4.5 years having done such a good job, it must have come as a shock to know that if what the PPP claims to be true, and if what the APNU is trying to delay, if that is true, then something has to be really wrong with the way they've governed. Because if they've done so well, so much better than the past, why don't people, if they had won, they would have been the ones pushing for this recount to be over with so that they can retain power. And that is not the case. So it is really, really worrying what's happening right now. I think CARICOM was probably one of the last hopes that could have brought some credibility to the process. That was the last block of countries that had not yet made a pronouncement or any strong pronouncement that something is seriously flawed with the process. They offered a hand to help in the process. So I'm hoping that the report that Charles just read out is incorrect, because if that is the case, we've just dug ourselves, if the hole could have been dug deeper, we've just done that. So I would really ask Mr. Arjune as well to talk to his colleagues of the party that he belongs to, and if he can find some decent and honest people in there, if there are any present, for them to really come to their senses as well. And if they do believe they've won, let the process continue. Let them be as vigorous about bringing this process to a conclusion as the rest of us are, because these delay tactics are only hurting the country, and in the long run, they may probably result in the APNU never being able to be seen as a credible party again.
Gentlemen, we got a couple of minutes more to our program tonight. I know the Guyanese people are looking, they want us to continue because it's really a sad moment in Guyana. And I know at the beginning of the program, Randy, you spoke of some of the challenges that Guyana will face if they go ahead and swear in Mr. Granger as the president. Or if I'm told, if he doesn't agree to that swearing in tomorrow, he needs to resign. And Vola Lawrence, as my friend said, it's conspiracy theory.
That could not happen. There'll have to be a Congress to elect a new leader. So that's what I'm saying to you. The letter, the contents of the letter are totally inaccurate.
Okay, we hope that you are right.
That's not the way the PNC functions.
But Randy, in closing, tell us again, remind our audience of what are some of the likely effect Guyana will have with an illegitimate government going into power.
Well, sanctions in Guyana would create tremendous hardship for the people of Guyana. Not Afro-Guyanese, not Indo-Guyanese, but every Guyanese, every single Guyanese. It may be difficult for people in Guyana to receive remittances from the United States. It may be difficult to have goods coming into Guyana. And if a full-fledged economic embargo is imposed on Guyana, probably within 2 weeks of this decision being taken, ExxonMobil will have to stop pumping oil because the floating production and storage facility has limited capacity. If the oil tankers can't come to Guyana to take the oil out, that operation will have to come to an end. Now, Guyana is looking bright in terms of revenue, increased revenue being generated. We're going to go back to a very, very bad situation. And it doesn't bode well for the future of this country. I'm so I feel pessimistic now that I was with a friend yesterday and I advised him, I said, go and buy 30 baby chicks, buy some chicken feed, go in your backyard, make 5 banks, plant some bayan, plant some pepper, plant some bora, and go and buy a big bag of rice, buy stock up on flour, rice, whatever canned things you can get. Prepare yourself for what may be a very rough period ahead for Guyana.
Wow, that is not a good news. Vishnu, anything in closing?
Well, I believe in karma, and when it comes to karma, those who are committing these crimes on Guyana right now will be the ones who will face the biggest cost. And I would just urge, if any of them are looking, if any of them can get the message that if there is an opportunity for you to correct what you are doing, because you will have to face the brunt of the results that are going to be coming down the pipeline of any negative actions that you're taking. You'll have to live with it, and there are enough eyes watching. The entire world is watching. It's not the 70s and the 80s. This is playing out live to the entire world to see, and they will all have to live with the consequences on either side, wherever the wrong is being done.
And to my friend Derrick.
Well, I have eternal optimism in Guyana. Its politicians and its people. We have gone to the precipice and we never went over. Somebody talked about ethnic violence. I'm one of those who believe that there'll never be ethnic violence in Guyana. There'll be quarreling and fighting, and there'll be acts of maybe retribution against a person or a group, but I don't see us going down that way. I strongly believe that because the APNU AFC coalition government is committed to the rule of law, and in this particular instance, committed to seeing the will of the Guyanese people be respected at the polls, there'll be a solution. I do not believe the cable or email you just got, Charles, about this whole process being scuppered, scuttled. I believe that Mr. Granger and the others in the coalition will act in a way that's consistent with the best interests of Guyana. And they do want a recount, they do want the votes of Guyanese to count, and they will do whatever is necessary and reasonable to make sure that happens. So, gentlemen, I don't see the kind of doomsday coming to Guyana as has been predicted here. To the contrary, I think we have a bright future and a brighter one with the oil revenues coming.
Thank you, Derrick. And I also want to join with Vishnu in saying, in addition to karma, I tell, and I hope that APNU supporters are listening, and the leadership and the PPP. Our role in this world is like a Broadway show. We are all on a big stage. The world, the earth is a stage that we are in. And we are all acting our role in that big stage. President Granger, you're the president today. Mr. Jagdev, you're opposition leader. Randy, you're an attorney. Vishnu, you're a doctor in your field. All of us play our role in that stage. When our role is over, we exit the stage, but the play continues. And Mr. President, you're a historian, and you know what history has written for us. Create good history for Guyana. Do the right thing. Let the Concon, I know you are under severe pressure from the diehard within the APNU Congress place. You got to stand up for what is right. Stand up for what it means to be Guyanese. I said the last program, we all say the pledge. I pledge myself to honor always the flag of Guyana and to be loyal to my country, to be obedient to the laws of Guyana, to love my fellow citizens, and to dedicate our energies towards the happiness and prosperity of Guyana. Mr. President, Mr. Jagdev, Dr. Ali, please come together for the good of our nation, for the good of our people. Work this out. Let us finish the count, whoever is the winner. And as my friend Derrick says, yes, the PP made a tremendous amount of mistakes in their reign in office. APNU has made a lot of mistakes in their reign of office. we can learn from that and chart a new course that where all of Guyana will be proud to be called Guyanese, and together we can develop our country. Randy, I want to thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Vishnu, all the best. Stay safe in Guyana. And we pray, God, that good will prevail. As Vishnu said, karma has a way. The universe have a way of going around. Whatever goes around comes around. Today it's my day, tomorrow it's yours. Let us realize that we are not in this world in isolation. We are no man, it's an island. We need to work with each other. Be our brother's keeper. And together we can do it. Derrick, I want to thank you for being a co-host tonight. And we look forward again to meet with you to discuss issues. And I hope we can have Vishnu again and Randy so we can continue discussion on another time. So gentlemen, thank you so much. And here from New York, we want to say good night and God bless our country.
Good night.
Right.
Thank you.